Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be ranking every contestant in Total Drama Island. Remember, just Total Drama Island. So characters who I liked later on, like Noah and Tyler, will probably be ranked low, but I still like them a lot. But in this season, they just weren't as good. Now, before we get into this, let me just say thank you guys for all the support. Not only do we hit 300 subscribers, but we added to it and hit 400 subscribers, and we are very close to 500. That's just insane. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys. Now, I was a little sick in the process of getting this video ready, so I do apologize for that, but I have something big to announce. First of all, before I make that announcement, what content would you guys like to see me cover more of? Now, I do understand that you guys love my Total Drama content, but I do think it would be fun to maybe air out a little, have a bit of variety every now and then. But I do understand why you guys love the Total Drama videos, so I will keep it coming. But if you have other content ideas you'd like for me to cover, please let me know. Now, as for the big announcement, I am pleased to announce that we have created a Discord server for the channel. I got some help from my friend who will be running that server with me, and I will create more staff positions over time, but we'll start it off slow and steady. But I'm really excited for this. I'm just hoping to make a good community, and it's just a fun place for you guys to chat. So please check it out if you are interested. All I ask is that you are over the age of 13 before joining. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive in. Now, Total Drama Island had 22 contestants, and I think the way that they were developed was quite good, at least for the first season. Now, when it comes to ranking them, I do have a criteria. I will be ranking them based on a few things: humor, impact, enjoyability, iconic moments, etc. And also, to not repeat myself from my previous video, I won't have Lashana as my favorite character, so I don't repeat myself entirely. And finally, I will try to say positive things for the characters I didn't like. Anyway though, with pretty much everything out of the way, let's dive into this one.
BAM! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at dead last, I think it was pretty close, but I'm going with Ezekiel. Here's why. Now, first of all, he was just kinda weird. I mean, bringing in a homeschool kid from a farm just isn't the best idea. Had he followed Chris's advice, I think he'd be a bit higher up, but obviously he isn't. Now look, man, he wasn't really that interesting and just felt pretty boring. Oh, and sexist. It took him not even 2 full episodes to put a bounty on his head and get voted out. He really wasn't that funny, but I did kinda like the drip he had at the end of the season.
Yo, dog, check it out. Being famous has totally changed my life. I'm just kicking it, yo. Got me some fly bling, too. You like?
And I'm at least glad he wasn't fully ignored and at least had some speaking roles time to time when he did appear. Other than that, though, Zeke just didn't have a lot going on. He was just pretty lame and just a pretty bad character in my opinion.
BAM! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at 21, I'm going with Justin. Honestly, he was really boring. Like, he had nothing too iconic going on and hardly even spoke. I mean, yeah, he looks good, but that's about it. I think the writers wanted to do something with him, but couldn't really figure it out alongside everyone else, so they just kind of let him be around for a little while before running him off after having 0 ideas. If that wasn't bad enough, he had one of the most, if not the most, predictable elimination of the season. I mean, by the 5th episode, everyone could tell Heather had plot armor and wasn't leaving anytime soon. So seeing Justin receive a lot of the attention just made it super predictable and just a boring elimination. Justin really didn't have any great moments, and he really didn't stand out. He might look good, but man, he did not do good. I think it could have been worse, but still a pretty bad character.
Hotness just wasn't enough.
BAM! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at 20, I'm going with Katie. Honestly, she wasn't really that interesting, and this would be her one and only season. Every Gen 1 character besides her, Sadie, and Eva would go on to appear, and at least compete in one more season as a contestant. Anyway, as for Katie, she was pretty boring, and her and Sadie were just clear copies of each other. I mean, at least Sadie contributed nicely to her team with the challenges at times. As for Katie, though, she really didn't leave any iconic lines and really didn't have an impact. I think she could have been worse, but she was just a character who couldn't handle a scene on her own. Mediocre at best, but still slightly bad in my opinion.
Oh my gosh, like, take a pill. We're fine. Killer Beth, where are you?
BAM! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 19, give me Eva. Honestly, Eva wasn't that good, but at least she had some iconic moments. I really didn't like her, but I think the writers just wanted to have a bit of fun with someone. As for some of those said iconic moments, her reaction to getting her MP3 player stolen, but we all really remember her most iconic moment.
Back by popular audience demand, it's Eva!
That's right, I'm back! And just so we're clear, not only am I gonna kick butt, but I'm giving special attention to my backstabbing Bass team who voted me off!
Honestly, it's kind of wild to me that Eva only competed in one season. I think she definitely had potential to be better later on. As for Eva though, she was an interesting character, but definitely not the best. Just a really mediocre character in my opinion.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at 18, I'm gonna go with Noah. Honestly, he wasn't that good, and I really wasn't a big fan. At least in Island. See, I think he was pretty funny, but just wasn't impactful. As for some of his moments, I mean, he kissed Cody. He was pretty funny in Dodge Brawl, but obviously his lack of athleticism sold him. I think Noah was definitely interesting, but really just didn't have a lot going on. I mean, at least he was funny and somewhat iconic, but I'd still say he's pretty mediocre.
How are we doing?
Sports, not my forte, remember?
You know, you could actually give it a shot and pretend to care.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 17, I'm gonna go with Tyler. Honestly, I really do like Tyler, and I'm ranking him higher than most for a few reasons. Number one, he's funny.
Going down! We're gonna bring the dinner to the table, and then we're gonna eat it!
Honestly, Tyler just brings a good vibe. Don't get me wrong, Tyler is a chicken, but I don't even care because at least he was entertaining. I think Tyler was definitely interesting, but lacked that second level of character development. I mean, when it's all said and done, he's just a jock. While I personally think he's a good character here in Island, he's still just mediocre at best if we're being honest. I mean, at least he was funny and had a few good moments compared to everybody below him.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in here at 16th, I'm gonna go with Sadie. Honestly, she only made it higher because she made it longer than pretty much everyone I ranked below her. Personally though, she just wasn't that good. I mean, she didn't really do much, and like I said from a few videos ago, she didn't talk for a good majority of the episodes, and when she did, it was incredibly minor speaking roles, like a laugh. I mean, just look at this. This does not look right. Sadie just looks so out of place, and for what reason? I think the writers had no idea what to do with her, but let her last a little bit longer before they could really do anything. Sadie could have been worse, but she really isn't that good. I get why the writers didn't bring her back. She's just another mediocre character in my personal opinion.
But now, we love him. We're starting a Trent fan club. Or maybe it should be an Auntie Gwen club. A club for my Auntie Gwen? Hi, Auntie Gwen!
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at 25, give me Cody. Honestly, he wasn't that bad, but really was just a simp. I will say Cody was pretty funny, which is what gave him the edge. I mean, obviously he wasn't incredibly impactful, but he was still very interesting. I really think Cody was funny, maybe not individually, but scenes where he's a second character, I think he's just set up quite well, and I mean, sometimes the writers themselves just set him up for gold.
Cody, you're up. All right, Cody. This garbage bomb's going off in exactly 10 minutes.
What? No way! I can't do this! Wait, you're not gonna watch?
5 minutes later.
Oops! Is anyone here?
Like I said though, funny but still wasn't completely in control. I definitely thought he was solid but could have used some work. Glad he at least came back in World Tour and did good.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 14, give me Beth. Honestly, I do like Beth, maybe not as much as the other contestants, but she wasn't that bad. I really think, though, she was a lot better in the second half of her time on the show. Seeing her stand up to Heather was fun, and I really do think she deserved this, and this would obviously lead to her development in action. But as for Island Beth, she was still pretty solid, but nothing insane. I think we're pretty much at a point where all of these characters who are ranking get impressively better, so it becomes more difficult for me to rank them, which is good. But with that being said, let's keep it going.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Okay, this was an incredibly hard decision. I really think Island built these characters incredibly well in Season 1, but coming in at 13, I'll go with Izzy. Now look, Izzy is an interesting character. I mean, literally, here in Island, Izzy was honestly at her peak. She felt fun, but a little too fun at times. I mean, we gotta consider she was being hunted down by the police in, like, the 8th episode. I mean, obviously the goal was to make her sound insane, but everything she actually said be true, which I don't mind. I mean, Izzy did have a few iconic moments, messing with Chef in hide and seek, pretending to be a bear, helping Owen win the season with the brownie smell. I mean, she was pretty iconic. While she isn't my favorite character, I definitely don't hate Izzy, but I think she wasn't as good as I remember. I think the potential with her was higher than most because of her talents, but unfortunately she wasn't used that way. Izzy was a good character, nothing great, but still a good character who could have been used even better had she been used up to her full potential.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 12, I'm gonna go with Courtney. Now, honestly, she was probably at her ceiling in this season, which is kind of sad for a character who has so much love and support. Now look, was her elimination fair? Not really. But was it deserved? Kinda. See, Courtney was a character who came in as an annoying camp counselor who was getting paid minimum wage. I think she got better once the writers began pushing her up with Duncan. It was a lot more enjoyable, and I mean, Courtney was definitely pretty iconic this season. Seeing her get with Duncan alone was pretty wild. I mean, it was the first real relationship besides Tyler and Lindsay, and I honestly really liked it. I think she was enjoyable and was a good team member. While she was nothing special, she wasn't bad. I'd say Courtney was a pretty solid character, definitely had high potential, but was used fairly in my personal opinion.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 11, I'm gonna go with Harold. I know this isn't entirely fair because he missed the merge by one episode, but he was still really good in my opinion. I mean, first off, he had a ton of iconic moments. The Matrix moment in Dodgeball, the talent show, this scene. But anyway, Harold was very fun. I think it was pretty interesting and didn't deserve any of the abuse he got. He tried his best and still was constantly getting bullied. Seeing him get back at Duncan was honestly enjoyable, and I was on Team Harold for that whole episode. Harold had a lot going and was just great. I mean, even if he wasn't incredibly special, he helped out for his team and still got abused. But today we'll show Harold some appreciation. Personally though, I'd consider Harold a pretty solid character.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Alright, this was incredibly difficult. Every character here I'd consider above average to, if not the best character, but we'll start it off with Bridget. Honestly, she's a good character, but there's still a bit to be desired. The main issue I think I have with her is the fact that she didn't have any too significant moments. I mean, besides kissing Jeff and helping out her team in Brunch of Disgustingness, there wasn't a lot I could name. As for the positives, she was a really positive vibe and was consistent in challenges, unless a skunk is involved. She was honestly pretty fun to watch, and definitely could have been worse. And while I don't like her and Jeff's relationship too much, I definitely think it was at an all-time high here. But the point is, Bridget had a good time here in the first season, but wasn't incredibly iconic. Just brought a good vibe and left a solid impact.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 9, I'm gonna go with DJ. Honestly, he's a good character, I think he brought in a good vibe and was a great contestant. You know, he was really fun to watch, and I definitely do appreciate how he was written. He might be big, but he had a bigger heart and cared for his teammates a lot. I think DJ just had good vibes and helped out a lot with challenges. He was really entertaining, but I do gotta give credit where credit is due to him. You know, he's a great teammate and brought some much needed positivity to his team even when they lost. As for some of his iconic moments, I really think some of his best were during the middle of the season, so episodes 7 to 17-ish. Seeing him help Jeff raising up Bridget was fun, and I really liked when he carried his team when they went to Boney Island in canoes. Anyway, as for DJ, he was a really good character at its peak here in Season 1. I'm glad the big dude got his time to shine, and he was a treat to watch. Definitely a great character.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming up at number 8, I think I'll go with Trent. Now look, I gave him the edge over DJ and Bridget because, well, number 1, I'm biased, and number 2, he was incredibly underrated. People look back at Trent and only look at his downfall, but never his peak. Trent and Island was just really nice. I mean, this is where we see him develop and start a relationship with Gwen, which honestly was pretty good. I think Trent gets a lot of hate because of action, but I really think we should appreciate him for Island. Now, as for some of the appreciation, let's just look back at some of his moments. I mean, we gotta consider Trent nearly dies 4 times this season, but I'm still convinced nothing could have stopped him. He had some good moments, but I honestly couldn't narrow it down. I think he just had such a good energy, which is why I like him so much. Characters who can carry a scene with their behavior and energy are ones that I really like. Trent is no exception. Trent is just Trent, and he'll always be remembered as someone who was treated like no one.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 7, I'm going with Lashana. I'm only doing this because while she is my favorite character, I already have stated that in the past and I just don't want to repeat myself. As for Lashana, she was iconic. Anything to deal with handling Heather she handled and was a positive vibe that her team needed. I really don't have that much to say, but Lashana is fantastic.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 6, I'll go with Lindsay. I really think she was a good character, but struggled with development for the longest. But man, Lindsay was hilarious and very iconic. It is to know that she gets with Tyler in this season, and honestly, I really never hated their relationship, even if I dislike some of the other ones we see in the show. 2 idiots just getting into a relationship just kind of makes sense to me. Along with that, Lindsay was just incredibly iconic. I mean, her cussing out Heather was arguably the highlight of the season, and it's an iconic scene. She also helped sabotage Heather multiple times, which was even more enjoyable. Lindsay just knew what to do in times of stress. Attack Heather by all means. Now, Lindsay might be dumb, but she was simply a great character, and because of this, I put her here at number 6.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Okay, let's freak out the comments section with this one. Coming in at number 5, I'm going with Heather. Now look, it's not because she was particularly bad, but because of how well she actually makes you mad. Heather did a fantastic job at being a manipulative person, but we also gotta remember just how much plot armor she had. The writers wouldn't let go of her anywhere, but Heather did also have some very close calls. There were numerous times where Heather was on the chopping block and never lost, which I understand, but we all knew she should have been gone after the talent show. Now, as for Heather as a character, she was pretty good at being rude and evil, which is why she's so well praised. But look, man, she honestly manipulated very vulnerable people. I mean, are Beth and Lindsay really threats? Okay, I guess so. Anyway, Heather is still a great character in this season, but I don't like her as much as I remembered. I think she was somewhat carried by plot armor and wasn't an insanely good manipulator. Sorry to any Heather fans, but she obviously did get a lot better in World Tour. But honestly, just in Island here, I'm still a fan, but just not as much. Still a really good character.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 4, I gotta go with Jeff. He was a great character and honestly one of my personal favorites, which is why I put him so high. Now, before he was sucking face with Bridget, I thought he was such a good character. I think that when I saw a redonkulous race, it reminded me of how much I liked Jeff in Total Drama Island. I mean, he's a party dude with a great heart. I think Jeff just brings such an energy and was helpful in a number of ways. He was also pretty iconic. I mean, we see him really be the one to take charge and help the Bass out. As for some of his iconic moments, I mean, getting with Bridget was pretty iconic. But besides this, he really didn't have a lot going on. But I think it was just his vibe that really kept him going for me. Coming into watching the show for the first time, I wasn't sure if I was going to be a fan of Jeff, but I definitely was. There's just something about him that I like so much about Jeff and his ability to just be interesting. Not only does Jeff interact well with his team, but he does it with opposing contestants as well. When Jeff was eliminated 6th, that entire episode, start to finish, explains the type of guy who Jeff is. He's a party guy who loves to see what you like as well, and eventually his vibes are just too good that you can't pass up on that party. He's just a phenomenal character in my opinion, and one of my favorites.
Makes it a better souvenir, right?
Right. Bye, Jeff. And thanks.
Wait up! Say cheese!
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Coming in at number 3, I'll go with Duncan. I really think this was a great season for him, but it wasn't even his peak in my personal opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, here he had a lot going, like his relationship with Courtney, which I actually did not mind here. I thought it was a lot better than I remember, but it was short-lasted. As for Duncan, though, he was an outstanding character. I really think he had a great introduction season and was pretty enjoyable the whole way through. Seeing him develop through the season was just great, and he had some great moments. Pretty much anything to do with him and Courtney was outstanding, and I really think the first half was just as good as his second half. I mean, seeing him develop just that early and begin his relationship was honestly just great to see. And I mean, on top of this, he was impactful to his team and constantly came up big in challenges. If I'm being honest, I think he was a lot better than I remembered. I felt like 4th was a fair placement for Duncan, but I think the writers just had so much more that they wanted to do with him. But here in Island, he was great. Just a classic character who had great moments. He definitely had downs, but his ups were really fun to see. Excellent character in my opinion.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Alright, this was a hard decision. I think if I had to choose between Gwen and Owen, I honestly don't know. They both are great characters who had their moments, but coming in at number 2, I think I'll choose Gwen. Gwen came in with something to prove, and she's definitely deserved to be a winner, in some countries, of course. She was a pretty consistent character and never felt like the bad guy. Seeing her get her licks in on Heather was funny, and I really liked her and Trent's relationship. It was at an all-time high, and it really sucks how quickly it fell apart. As for Gwen herself, though, she was really the definition of brains and bronze. She wasn't necessarily insanely smart, but she had common sense and was fierce in challenges. I think her individual performance was great, and honestly, I think Gwen is a lot funnier than I remember. She felt smirky, but also really funny. Gwen overall was a great character who had a lot going. She was very iconic, very fun, and very enjoyable. Overall, a 10 out of 10 character in my opinion.
Bam! One shot was all it took to fell the great beast. We took his blood and marked ourselves to honor him. It was a good death.
Okay, well now I'm convinced no one will ever genuinely hear me out again, but Owen was a beast. First off, let's talk about a few things I didn't like about Owen. Don't get me wrong, the fart jokes and just the awkward moments where he's naked were not good, but he made up for it. I think Owen came in as a beast. I mean, challenge-wise, he's like the Tom Brady of challenges, consistent and the best, and unlike Tom Brady, he never cheated. We gotta remember, Owen won the first challenge, Brunch of Disgustingness, dominated I Triple Dog Dare You, and so many other challenges. In the comment section, I don't want to hear you guys say, oh, well, reviewer, Owen lost the cooking challenge, he should have been voted out. Everyone knows most merged characters get bailed out at one point or another. As for some of Owen's moments, I'd say winning the season is probably at number 1. Just a great moment and incredibly fun to see. I really think Owen proved that with toughness you can win, and that's how he did it. He was pretty funny, and I was a big fan. And to be honest, I think Owen gets a lot of hate, which I can't understand, but he wasn't entirely carried by plot armor in this season. He was just dominant most of the time and definitely deserved to win. But, like I said, I think I understand why he gets so much disrespect, but he was incredibly dominant here on Island, and looking back, it's just impressive. Owen deserves all the respect he gets, and I'm a big supporter. As for Owen's ranking, I'd just say he's the best, at least here on Island. Honestly, like I said, he was just dominant and very enjoyable to watch, so that is why Owen is my number 1 favorite Total Drama Island character. Well, that'll just about do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. But before I wrap things up, I just want to talk about something for a second. Now, we are very close to 500 subscribers, so I'm hoping we're able to hit that goal soon. So hopefully you guys can help me out. That would mean just everything to me, and I appreciate it so much. And in some other stuff, if you aren't already aware, we have made a Discord for the server. It's in the description down below and will be the pinned comment. I'm super excited to see how it'll go, and I'll be active as often as I can be. But with pretty much everything out of the way, that'll do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take it easy. Peace.